In the middle of the vast galaxy, on a beautiful planet called Kilara, lived a princess named Syra. She belonged to the Kilari people, a proud and ancient alien race known for their wisdom and strong traditions. But there was one thing different about Syra. No one had ever seen her face. Since she was a child, Syra always wore a veil. This was not because she wanted to hide, but because the Kilari believed her face was cursed. They said that if someone saw her face before they were ready, bad things would happen. So no one dared to look at her without her permission. This made Syra very lonely. Even though she was a princess, no one wanted to get close to her. Other aliens who came to the palace felt scared or uncomfortable. They would bow from a distance and avoid talking to her. The court was full of whispers and gossip about the veiled princess. Syra understood their fear, but inside, she felt trapped. She wanted to be known for who she was, not for a mask she had to wear. She wanted friends, allies, and someone who would see her as a person, not a mystery. But the rules of her people were strict. No one could bond with her, a sacred connection between two souls, without seeing her face first, and no one had dared to ask. Far away, on a human spaceship, Captain Eli Carter heard about the princess. Humans were new to this part of the galaxy. Eli was different from many humans. He was brave, open, and curious. He didn't believe in fear based on old stories or appearances. When his government sent him as an envoy to the Kilari Empire, he was ready for anything. When Eli arrived at Kilara, he saw the princess for the first time. She stood in the grand hall, her veil shining softly under the palace lights. The other aliens kept their distance, but Eli stepped forward without fear. He greeted her with respect and a calm smile. Syra watched him carefully. His eyes did not show fear or judgment. Instead, she saw something rare, understanding and kindness. This human might be different. Maybe he would be the first to break the silence around her. But even Eli did not ask to see her face. Instead, he said something unexpected. "I want to know you. Not just the princess or the veil, but the real Syra." The court gasped. How could he say such a thing? Was he foolish or brave? Syra felt a small hope inside her heart. For the first time, she thought maybe, just maybe, someone would bond with her without seeing her face. But no one knew what this bond would bring. For better or worse, the story of the veiled princess and the brave human had just begun. Captain Eli Carter stood at the entrance of the Kilari Palace, feeling the weight of many eyes upon him. The hall was huge and filled with alien faces, each watching him closely. They whispered in their strange language, curious about the human who dared to come so boldly. Eli was different from most visitors. He did not wear fancy robes or act like he was afraid. He walked with his head high and his hands open. He was here to make friends, not enemies. The Kilari people were proud and strong, but they were also very careful. Their empire had lasted for thousands of years because they trusted few outsiders. Now, with a new threat coming from deep space, they needed new allies, and that meant trusting Eli. Inside the palace, Princess Syra watched from behind her veil. She saw how the other ambassadors stayed far away, nervous and unsure. But Eli moved closer, his eyes full of calm confidence. Something about him made her heart beat faster. Eli was not here to fight or spy. He came with a simple message from the human leaders: peace and partnership. They wanted to help the Kilari protect their home and share knowledge. But first, Eli needed to earn their trust. When he met Syra face to face, though her face was hidden, he did not hesitate. He spoke gently. "Princess Syra, I know your people are cautious, but I believe in friendship beyond fear. I want to bond with you, to understand you and your world." The room grew quiet. The word bond had great meaning for the Kilari. A bond was a powerful connection between two beings. It was spiritual and political. It could create strong alliances, but it was never done lightly, especially with the princess. No one had ever dared to bond with Syra without seeing her face. It was unthinkable. But Eli was different. His bravery surprised everyone. Syra felt a strange hope. She wanted to trust him, but the rules were clear. If she let him bond without seeing her face, what would happen? Could he accept her as she truly was? Eli smiled and said, "I am ready to take the risk. I believe people are more than what they look like. Show me who you are, princess." For a moment, the council of elders hesitated. Then Syra made a decision. She nodded slowly and said, "Very well, Captain Eli. We will begin the bond." The first step was quiet and strange. They sat together, eyes closed, and opened their minds. They shared feelings, memories, and thoughts without speaking. Eli felt Syra's loneliness, her strength, and her fears. It was not easy. The bond was like walking on a new path, dark but full of light. Eli's heart grew stronger, and Syra felt less alone. Outside the palace walls, rumors began to spread. Some said Eli was foolish. Others whispered that Syra might change the future of the empire. But inside, something new was growing. A bond between a brave human and a veiled alien princess. Together, they might face the dangers ahead. And so, the story moved forward, with hope and courage in the stars. The palace was filled with tension after Eli's bold offer to bond with Princess Syra without seeing her face. The elders and nobles whispered in secret chambers. Could a human really break their oldest rule? Would this bring honor or disaster? Syra sat quietly in her private room, the soft glow of the palace lights casting shadows on her veil. She thought about Eli's words. He did not fear her mystery. He did not want to change her. He wanted to understand her. The princess knew what the bond meant. It was not just a simple friendship. It connected two beings in body, mind, and spirit. It was sacred and powerful. It could change their lives forever. Still, Syra felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this bond could free her from the loneliness she had felt all her life. Maybe Eli was the one brave enough to see beyond her veil. With a quiet breath, Syra sent a message to Eli. She invited him to a secret meeting in the palace gardens, a place where they could be alone and talk honestly. When Eli arrived, the night was calm, with stars shining bright above the silver trees. Syra stood before him, her face still hidden. "I will make you an offer," she said softly. "If you want to bond with me, it will not be easy. You must trust me completely. You will feel my thoughts and emotions, even the darkest ones, and I will feel yours." Eli nodded without hesitation. "I understand, princess. I'm ready." Syra smiled behind her veil. "Then we begin tomorrow, at dawn." The next morning, they met in a quiet chamber filled with light and soft sounds. A special ceremony began. The bond was started by touching a small crystal between them, a symbol of trust and connection. As their hands met the crystal, a strange energy flowed between them. They closed their eyes, and suddenly, Eli could see flashes of Syra's memories. He felt her childhood, full of both joy and fear. He sensed her hope for peace and the heavy burden of her royal duties. Syra, in return, felt Eli's strength and courage. She saw his memories of Earth, of wars and friendship, of humans struggling but never giving up. The bond was deeper than either expected. It was like two rivers joining into one strong flow. But not everyone was happy. The court grew restless. Some called Eli reckless. Others said Syra was betraying her people's traditions. Syra knew the danger. If the bond failed, it could ruin her and Eli both. But she also knew this was a chance to change everything. "Do not fear," she whispered to Eli after the ceremony. "Together, we can face whatever comes." Eli smiled back. "I'm not afraid. I trust you." And with that trust, their bond grew stronger, a light in the shadow of fear. The story of the veiled princess and the brave human was just beginning to shine. After the bond ceremony, Eli and Princess Syra found themselves connected in a way no one else could understand. They did not need words all the time. Their minds and hearts talked silently, sharing feelings, thoughts, and dreams. At first, it was strange for both of them. Eli was used to speaking out loud, making plans with others. Sarah had always kept her feelings hidden behind her veil and the palace walls. Now their silent conversations opened a new world. One afternoon, Eli sat in the palace garden, feeling the warm sun on his skin. Without looking, he felt Syra's presence in his mind. She was there, calm but thoughtful. "I feel the weight you carry," Eli thought. "You are not just a princess. You carry your people's hopes and fears." Syra's answer came gently. "Yes, sometimes I feel alone in this role. People see my veil, not me. They fear what they do not know." Eli smiled softly. "I don't fear you, Syra. I want to learn from you, to stand with you." Their bond grew stronger with every silent exchange. Eli learned about Syra's childhood, how she had few friends because no one wanted to get close. He felt the sting of loneliness and the desire to break free from old rules. Syra learned about Earth and humans. She felt Eli's courage, his love for his family, and his hope for peace in the galaxy. But the bond was not always easy. Sometimes, the feelings were too strong. Eli felt Syra's sadness deeply, and it made him ache. Syra felt his frustration when political talks did not go well. They had to learn how to hold each other's emotions without losing themselves. One night, Eli and Syra met in the quiet of the palace's highest tower. The stars shone bright above them, and the cool wind whispered through the open windows. "I never thought I could feel this close to someone without seeing their face," Eli said softly. "You are more real to me now than many people I have known." Syra lowered her veil for a moment, just enough to let the moonlight touch her skin. "You see me without fear. That is something I have waited for all my life." But even as their bond grew, danger was near. Some in the court watched them with suspicion. Rumors began to spread, and whispers of betrayal filled the halls. Still, Eli and Syra ignored the gossip. They trusted each other, knowing that their silent conversations were building something new: hope. Together, they prepared for what was coming: a new alliance, a new way of seeing each other, and a future where fear no longer ruled. Their silent bond was a secret light, growing stronger in the shadows of the ancient palace. The palace halls buzzed with uneasy whispers. Not everyone accepted the bond between Princess Syra and Captain Eli Carter. Many nobles and elders felt fear and anger. To them, Eli was a stranger, an outsider from a young, unknown species, and bonding with Syra without seeing her face. That was dangerous and reckless. In secret meetings behind heavy doors, the Council of Elders spoke in low voices. "This human threatens our traditions," one elder said. "If the bond fails, the princess and the empire will suffer." Another elder nodded. "We must act before this foolishness spreads." Word of the doubts reached Syra and Eli. They knew that some wanted to break their bond, to stop the new alliance before it could grow strong. But both were determined. Their connection was more than politics. It was trust and hope. One afternoon, Eli sat alone in the war room, reviewing reports of the alien threat approaching the empire's borders. His thoughts were heavy, but his mind often drifted to Syra. He could feel her concern in their silent bond. She carried not only the weight of her people, but the fear of losing everything she loved. Suddenly, a sharp knock came at the door. It was Jalen, one of the palace guards loyal to Eli. "There's a warning, Captain," Jalen said quietly. "Some factions are planning to stop the bond ceremony tomorrow. They say it dishonors the empire." Eli frowned. "We cannot let fear control us. Syra and I will face this together." That night, Syra met with her closest advisors. She told them, "I know some fear change, but I will not break this bond. It is a new path for our people." Her advisors bowed but looked uncertain. Tradition ran deep, and change was never easy. The next day, as the bond ceremony was to continue, strange events began. Messages threatening Eli and Syra appeared in the palace corridors. Servants spoke in hushed tones about spies and traitors. Eli remained calm. He reached out through their bond. Syra, We must be strong. We cannot let their fear win. Syra's thoughts came back with a steady strength. Together, we are stronger than their doubts. Despite the tension, the ceremony went ahead. In the great hall, surrounded by nobles and soldiers, Eli and Syra stood side by side. Their bond was not just about their connection. It was a message to the Empire. Change was coming, whether the old guards liked it or not. The elders watched silently, some scowling, others curious. But Eli's calm courage and Syra's quiet strength could not be denied. Outside the palace, the stars shone brighter than ever. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The bond between the brave human and the veiled princess was a light in the growing shadows. And no one would easily stop it. The tension in the Kaleri Empire was growing, but there was little time to waste. A fleet of hostile ships had been detected moving toward the Kaleri home system. They were dangerous enemies, ready to destroy anything in their path. Princess Syra and Captain Eli Carter stood together in the war room, surrounded by holograms of star maps and battle plans. The elders had reluctantly agreed to let Eli help lead the defense, thanks to his bond with Syra. "This is the first real test of our bond," Eli said calmly. "We must work together, share our strengths, and protect the Empire." Syra nodded. "Our people need hope. We cannot fail." The enemy fleet was fast and strong. Their weapons could destroy entire planets if given the chance. The Kaleri Navy was skilled, but had never faced such a threat before. Eli and Syra used their bond to communicate silently. They shared thoughts, strategies, and emotions in ways no one else could understand. This gave them an edge. The ability to react quickly and coordinate attacks perfectly. During the battle, Eli felt Syra's courage like a fire burning inside him. She felt his calm and steady focus. Together, they led the Kaleri ships in a daring attack that surprised the enemy. The skies above the home planet lit up with flashes of energy and explosions. The sound of battle echoed through the palace as the war raged on. Many Kaleri soldiers looked to Eli and Syra for guidance. The bond between the human and the princess became a symbol of strength and unity. It gave them hope even in the darkest moments. But the fight was far from easy. At one point, the enemy managed to break through the outer defenses and headed toward the capital. Eli's heart raced as he saw the danger. He reached out to Syra through their bond. "We need a bold move, or everything will be lost." Syra responded quickly. "I trust you. Let's do it together." With perfect timing, Eli ordered a fleet maneuver that drew the enemy ships into a trap. Syra used her knowledge of Kaleri technology to boost their defenses. The plan worked. The enemy fleet was forced to retreat, badly damaged. As the battle ended, cheers rose from the Kaleri forces. For the first time, many believed the human and the veiled princess could lead them to victory. Eli looked at Syra with respect and pride. "We made a good team." Syra smiled behind her veil. "Yes, together, we are stronger." But even in victory, both knew the war was not over. The bond they shared had passed its first test, but many challenges still waited in the stars, and their story was only beginning. The night after the battle, the palace was quiet. The stars shone softly outside the windows, but inside, Princess Syra felt her heart pounding. She had made a decision she never thought possible. For years, she had hidden behind her veil, believing her face was a curse, something too dangerous for others to see. But now, after bonding with Eli and fighting side by side, she trusted him more than anyone. Eli sat near her in the private chamber. His eyes held a gentle kindness that made Syra feel safe. He had never asked to see her face. Instead, he accepted her as she was. "Eli," Syra whispered, "I want to show you my face, not as a princess, but as myself." Eli smiled warmly. "I would be honored, Syra. I want to see all of you." Slowly, Syra reached up and lifted the delicate veil. The soft light revealed her face, unlike any Eli had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly with a light blue glow, and her eyes were deep pools of silver. Her features were beautiful and strange, perfectly alien yet full of life. For a moment, Eli was speechless, but then a smile spread across his face. "You are more amazing than I imagined," he said softly. "Your face is not a curse. It is a gift." Syra felt relief and joy. For the first time, she felt free. News of the reveal spread quickly through the palace. Some nobles gasped in shock, others whispered in awe. But Eli stood by her side, proud and unafraid. The elders were silent. Many had feared that showing her face would bring disaster. But Eli's calm acceptance and Syra's bravery began to change their minds. In the days that followed, Syra walked among her people without her veil. She met eyes with those who once avoided her, and some smiled for the first time. Her face was no longer a secret. It was a symbol of trust and courage. Eli and Syra's bond grew deeper. They shared more than thoughts and feelings. They shared a new understanding of each other and their worlds. But they knew the danger was not over. The enemy fleet might return, and there were still those who doubted their alliance. Still, with her face revealed and her bond strong, Syra felt ready to lead. Together, they looked toward the stars, ready to face whatever the future held. Their story was no longer about fear or mystery. It was about hope, courage, and the power of trust. After Princess Syra revealed her face, something began to change across the Kalari Empire. Old fears slowly started to fade, and new hope filled the hearts of many. The people saw that Syra was brave and strong, and that Captain Eli Carter was a true friend and ally. The Council of Elders called a meeting to discuss the future. Some were still unsure, but most agreed that the bond between Syra and Eli was more than a personal connection. It was a symbol of unity and strength. If the Empire wanted to survive, it had to work together with the humans. Syra spoke with calm confidence. "We are stronger when we stand together. Our enemies want to divide us, but we will not let them. Let this bond be the start of a new era for our peoples." Eli stood beside her, his voice steady. "Humans and Kalari have different cultures, but we share the same goal: peace and safety for our homes. We can learn from each other and fight as one." Slowly, the other leaders began to see the truth in their words. Plans were made to combine the strengths of both peoples. Scientists from Earth and Kalara worked together to improve technology. Soldiers trained side by side, learning new tactics and skills. The Kalari shared their knowledge of the stars and ancient wisdom. Humans brought their courage and new ideas. Together, they created powerful weapons and defenses that no enemy could easily break. In the palace, Syra and Eli continued to strengthen their bond. They spent hours talking, both silently and aloud, about how to lead their peoples through the coming war. Their friendship became a shining example for others, but not everyone was happy. Some factions still resisted the change. They spread rumors and tried to weaken the alliance. Syra and Eli faced challenges from inside, as well as outside the empire. One day, a message arrived from the enemy fleet. They threatened to attack again soon, more powerful and dangerous than before. The empire had little time to prepare. Eli and Syra called a meeting with their commanders. "This is our moment," Eli said firmly. "We must stand united or fall divided." Syra nodded. "We fight not just for survival, but for the future of all our people. Together, we are unstoppable." The commanders agreed, their doubts fading in the face of such determination. As the enemy fleet approached, Kalari and human ships formed a united front. The sky above the homeworld was filled with shining lights of hope and strength. The bond between Syra and Eli inspired everyone. It reminded them that fear and suspicion could be overcome by trust and friendship. The battle to come would be hard, but the empire was ready. Together, they would face the darkness and fight for a new dawn. The enemy fleet was larger than anyone had expected. Their ships darkened the skies, moving closer to the Kalari homeworld with deadly speed. The time for talk was over. The battle had begun. Princess Syra and Captain Eli Carter stood on the command bridge, their bond stronger than ever. The energy between them gave them power and courage. Yet they knew this fight would demand everything they had. As the battle raged, many Kylari and human ships fought bravely, but the enemy's strength was overwhelming. A sudden attack broke through the front lines, heading straight for the palace itself. Eli saw the danger immediately. His heart pounded as he ordered the defenders to form a shield around the palace, but he knew it would not be enough. Through their bond, Syra felt Eli's fear. "We cannot lose this place," she thought urgently. "It is the heart of our people." Eli made a hard choice. He would lead a small team on a daring mission to stop the enemy ship before it reached the palace. The risk was great, but there was no other way. "Syra," Eli said, his voice steady but serious. "I have to do this. I need you to trust me." Syra nodded, her eyes shining with fierce determination. "I trust you, Eli. Come back to me." With that, Eli and his team jumped into their fighters and sped toward the enemy ship. The battle was fierce. Enemy lasers burned the darkness, and explosions shook the stars. Eli's fighter was hit, and alarms blared. He knew he had only one chance. Flying close to the enemy ship's engine, he fired a precise shot. The engine exploded, sending the enemy vessel spinning out of control. But the explosion threw Eli's fighter off course. He was hurt, and his ship was losing power. Back on the palace bridge, Syra felt the shock through their bond. Her heart broke, but she refused to give up. She reached deep inside herself and tapped into an ancient Kylari power, a gift unlocked by their bond. Light flowed from her hands, reaching through space to Eli's damaged ship. With her energy guiding him, Eli regained control just enough to steer away from danger. His fighter crashed, but he survived. The palace defenses rallied. Inspired by Eli's sacrifice and Syra's power, the defenders pushed back the enemy fleet. Slowly, the tide of battle turned. After the fight, Eli was carried back to the palace, injured but alive. Syra was there to greet him, her face full of relief and love. "You were incredible," she said softly. "Your courage saved us all." Eli smiled weakly. "I couldn't have done it without you." Their bond had passed the ultimate test, through sacrifice, trust, and strength. Together, they had saved their people and proved that unity was more powerful than fear. But the war was not yet over. They knew many challenges still waited. Yet, with their bond, Syra and Eli were ready to face them. Together, the battle was over, but the galaxy was still changing. The victory had brought peace for now, but the true challenge was what came next. Princess Syra and Captain Eli Carter stood together before the great crowd in the palace courtyard. The people of the Kylari Empire had gathered from every corner, curious and hopeful. Syra smiled openly, no veil to hide her face. "Today we begin a new era," she said, "one where fear no longer controls us, where we see each other for who we truly are." Eli stepped forward. "Humans and Kylari are different, but we share the same dreams. Peace, friendship, and a future we build together." The crowd cheered, many of them moved by the sight of their princess standing strong beside a human. The bond between Syra and Eli had changed more than just their own lives. It had changed the hearts of their people. Old laws about the princess's veil were lifted. Children ran to see Syra's face, not as a curse, but as a symbol of courage. The empire began to open its doors to new ideas and new friends. Syra and Eli worked to build lasting alliances between humans and Kylari. They shared knowledge, culture, and hope. Together, they explored the stars, ready for whatever the future held. But their bond was more than politics. It was a friendship that grew stronger every day. They learned from each other's worlds and dreams. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace, Syra and Eli stood on the balcony, looking at the stars. "Do you think they will ever stop fearing the unknown?" Eli asked quietly. Syra smiled. "Maybe not completely, But as long as we keep showing them trust and courage, we can help them change. Eli nodded. I'm glad I took that risk. Bonding with you without seeing your face was the bravest thing I ever did. And I'm glad you saw me for who I am, Cyrus said softly. Their story became a legend told across the galaxy, a tale of bravery, trust, and the power of looking beyond fear. No one dared to bond with the veiled princess before seeing her face, but one brave human did, and together, they changed the course of history. The stars above shone brighter that night, as if celebrating a new beginning.